it's a positive film. It has heroes and villains, and that it essentially is a fun movie to watch. It's been a long time since people have been able to go to the movies and see a sort of straightforward, wholesome, fun adventure.
Well, it's a fantasy. It's not science fiction so much as it is space fantasy. And it's about people. It's finally about people and not finally about science.
The story, when you actually put it into words, is only so much nonsense to hang a great visual experience onto. It's the stuff that fairy tales are made of.
Sort of boiling down religion into a very basic concept. The fact that there is some deity or some power or some force that sort of controls our destiny works for good and also works for evil.
Marvellous, healthy innocence. Great pace, wonderful to look at, full of guts, nothing unpleasant. I mean, people go bang bang and people fall over and are dead, but, no horrors. Some wonderful freshness about it, kind of like a wonderful fresh air.
It's got whatever you want it to be. It's pure entertainment. It's like a roller coaster ride, and it can be interpreted as long as you enjoy it, which is the intention.
In 1992, Crisscross told us to jump, and we've been jumping ever since. Hello, this is The Modern Way, here on Generation Skywalker. Now, The Modern Way is going to be a monthly roundtable all about the modern toys and collectibles of the Star Wars universe. And like our 5-point rule here on Generation Skywalker, each month we will have 5 hosts and 5 topics. Yeah, so this month it's very Generation Skywalker heavy with the hosts. Well, I'm joined by Craig. Good evening, Craig.
Good evening.
Si is here. Good evening, Si.
Good evening.
And Mark. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, chaps.
And we are also joined by our guest host this month, and that is Daniel Burgess. Are you all right, Dan?
Very good, thank you.
Now, we are all kind of, when it comes to collecting, predominantly kind of vintage collectors, but I think we all dabble a little bit in modern. I don't want us to go off on our collections and stuff, but I'm just going to go around quickly what kind of like your modern habits are at the moment. So, Craig, I know you've been out buying a bit of modern today as it goes.
I have, yeah, in preparation for this, really. I mean, I've got like 4 main little side focuses that my modern collecting ticks boxes for. One of them is a sort of key character timeline that I have going, which sort of started out as a Skywalker family tree and grew to a wider cast of characters. But that sort of goes through the prequels, the original saga, and into the sequels. So I have that on the go. I've also got items that relate to the prop panel that I have, the bit of the Millennium Falcon floor and the ceiling from the Death Star. So scenes around that, some characters in there, some bits of modern in that. I've also got, rather bizarrely, I recreate publicity photographs and famous Star Wars covers with 6-inch Black Series characters. And I've also got this slight fascination with Shadows of the Empire at the minute.
They're brilliant. That photo you put up earlier of your timeline, shells, are amazing. How do we never know this? I was like, I love that.
It's fun. I mean, it dates back to when I had a hell of a lot of, Power of the Force 2 stuff, and I sold it on, but I kept back just that core cast because I thought that I'd do something with them one day, and so about 10 years later I've finally done it.
Love it. Si, now I'm guessing your modern collecting is a bit like your vintage collecting, where you buy it in January, you sell the lot off in February, you buy it again in March, you sell it off in April.
I'm not talking to you. You are king of the focus. The foci king is you. Mr. I've got to focus on Monday, and by Tuesday, what focus? I have a very, very stable collection, particularly the modern stuff. It's just varied, that's all. Very varied. I buy it as it comes along. I'm rarely hunting for something specific, but if I find something interesting, I'll pick it up. So I think I had the last modern thing I bought was probably just one of those Rogue One Stormtroopers, was it? Yeah, the Rogue One, the really cool sculpt they did.
It's a good sculpt.
Yeah, amazing sculpt that you can find in The Entertainer still for £2 each. What a bargain. Before that, I had at the NEC Toy Fair, actually, I picked them up, those Cadbury's cast resin heads, probably tooling aids from Carl Dennis of Darth Maul and R2-D2.
They are quite cool. We'll have to slap an image up of that along with Craig's shelf. They are brilliant, yeah. I must admit, Carl bought them about 2 months ago, didn't he? They were his favourite piece, and he's moved them on.
Yeah. Well, I did when he posted them.
He makes us two look good, doesn't he?
When you move them on, give me a shout, mate, because they're cool. They're huge, and they weigh about 3 odd kilos each, and they're just so unusual. There's something a bit different, so that's what I like. Something a bit different. Loads of Power of the Force 2 carded figures, freeze frames being my favourite, but other than that, it's just what pops up. Anything modern, interesting pops up, I'll have it.
Now, Mark, do you dabble in modern?
I don't, mate. I haven't got a single thing. In fact, I don't even know why you've asked me to do this, because I can't stand the modern stuff as a rule.
None of it.
I really, really don't. But I've got to say, like a lot of us, when Phantom Menace hit, I was one of those guys that queued up outside Toys R Us at 12 midnight and filled a trolley full of Power of the Force 2 figures and vehicles, and I ended up with a loft full at my parents' house, full of that kind of those toys. Couldn't wait to get rid of it in the end. And
you never get any nostalgia for that time, though?
None whatsoever. I'm trying to forget it, really.
I've got loads of nostalgia of Power of the Force 2 from being I was at college at the time. I used to just go in and buy whatever I could. And at the moment, my office, if I turned around, is just stacked with Power of the Force everywhere, because I'm going through one of those periods. I used to do a magazine called Dark Times, and I remember when we found out that Kenner were going to do the Power of the Force 2 range, and I did an article that basically said there's no way Kenner are going to re-release old vehicles, so don't worry about the value of vintage stuff. It'll always be the same. Kenner's no way a kid back then is going to be interested in an X-Wing that we had in the 70s. And lo and behold, what did they do? They went and did exactly that. So, yeah, what do I know? No, well, that's a good question, Mark. And finally, Dan, you're I know you dabble a little bit, and I know your son is a bit in love with General Grievous, so I know you pick up certain bits.
I try not to buy everything, and I don't. I generally, it's original trilogy characters that have been released on card backs on sequel trilogy cards. So like a Last Jedi Luke Skywalker, or a Han Solo on a Force Awakens card. Then I try and pick up an example of something from each movie. I've been picking up some of the Mandalorian stuff, and I do like some of the Black Series exclusives each year, so I tend to pick them up as well. I try and stick to that as best I can.
You often pick up the exclusives.
Yeah.
And then you're normally walking around farthest from with one under your arm trying to sell it.
Sometimes.
Quite often. I've seen you knocking around like with a Kenobi Black Series, and I think more recently, I can't think which one you had at the last one, but you definitely had something because you put it on our stall.
I can't bring myself to open them. That's the thing. I'll buy one and I'll keep one in a box and I'll open it up, and then I just can't bring myself to open it. So yeah, I think when you guys were at my wedding, and I gave from a boy, he was my best man. I gave him a Black Series General Grievous and a Black Series Obi-Wan Kenobi in his clone trooper gear, and kind of you all stood back in horror as he ripped the boxes open and started playing with them. But it's good to see.
Right then, so let's move on to topic 1. Okay, some of these topics, probably discussed on other sources, websites, maybe other podcasts previously over the last few months. But this is our first show, and put together a rough kind of show of certain things that have happened in the last few months with regards to modern. So for the first topic, we're going with the end of the 5 points of articulation line. Now, I didn't realise it was actually dead. We've had no Rise of Skywalker on its own release. We had no Mandalorian on its own release. It appears that Hasbro have cancelled all those lines and are purely, when it comes to 3 3/4 inch, are purely going vintage collection, which is obviously multiple articulation, and the retro line. Do you think we're ever going to see those 5 p.o.a. again?
I've been doing some digging on the net and looking around. So there's a few things that have caused it. So Hasbro's license for Star Wars expires this year. I think could be a big play into quite a bit. And when you look at Hasbro as a company, they made a £48 million or $1 million loss in 2018, and this year their share price has dropped 15%. That was back in October. So they're really struggling with kids playing with toys less. And you've got Trump's trade war on China isn't helping either. So, the cost of the plastics and all of that. So, finding a figure for £5 or £6, brand new on the shelf isn't happening anymore. You're looking at, the vintage collection, you're looking at, £12, £13 plus in the UK.
Yeah, I think Dan's hit the nail on the head. It's the decline of the toy industry as a whole, isn't it? Kids just aren't playing with toys like we used to when we were kids. The toy market in the UK alone, which is the 4th biggest in the world, fallen by 6% for a second year running. That's not a blip. That is a marked downward trend. You can blame the election in December for a subdued Christmas if you want, but that's year on year now. 6% in 2019 after a 6% fall in 2018. Toys just aren't what they were. And I was reading some comments by some market analyst or market specialist that's saying that because now our toys come from so many different directions, not just the cinema anymore, but the television, apps and video games, they're sort of relatively newcomers to the toy market in terms of our generation, certainly, that the releases are so often that they're just not having the impact that they used to. So whereas you'd get the big blockbuster, 2 or 3 blockbusters per year that would prompt toy releases, now you're getting 20, 30 blockbusters as such per year, and it's massively diluted the market, and the longevity of stock just doesn't hang about.
It's just clutter, isn't it? And it's not just within each one of those franchises you've got a number of different scales and different lines, and it sort of cannibalizes itself as well. I found it really interesting with like Fortnite. You'd think like Fortnite was bulletproof, and last Christmas, not the Christmas just gone, but the Christmas before, when the Fortnite action figures kind of hit, I thought, this is interesting. But they're all clear out.
Having a 10-year-old son who does still play with action figures to a degree, although he is getting more and more techno-savvy with his phone and Xbox and whatever. What I've noticed is the quality of the toys, specifically action figures, is so ropey that they'd literally fall apart in your hands. Pretty shoddy stuff, really.
I think you're right, Mark, as well. I've got an 8-year-old, he's nearly 9, loves Fortnite, and we got to that Christmas, I think Craig just brought up the Fortnite, and loads of my family bought him Fortnite figures, and I think he took them out once, and they're just sitting in a box now, and it's I thought, he'll probably enjoy them because he'll be able to set up that game, but not there.
It's just not translated. That digital to physical is just not translated with that product.
No, it's strange. But I'm like Mark, my lad was still, he doesn't go and get the figures out. But my daughter, who's only 2.5, she loves a Star Wars figure. And if she gets them out, my son will then join in. It doesn't really happen, which is a real shame because I would have still been getting Masters of the Universe and stuff out at that point. So, Craig, the vintage collection and the retro line then they're aimed at collectors. There's no way around that. If you get a vintage collection figure in your hand, it's not really made for playing with. So it would seem you'd think we were going to get more of those kind of figures. But I was listening to the Galaxy of Toys Christmas special where they dissect the year before, and I think they've got their numbers slightly wrong. They said that only 27 3 3/4 inch figures were released in 2019, which was quite a low number. I think it's slightly more than that when I was trying to do a count. That is the lowest since 1996. So you're going back to the dark times when Power of the Force 2 were just about to come out. That's a long time ago now, 24 years ago. And during the rest of these films from Disney, all the numbers were between 60 to 90. Why is that number so low as well? Because surely the collector's market is still vibrant.
Yeah, I mean, speaking personally, the retro line left me a bit cold. Really, it's I've got the originals anyway, and I guess it's a bit like when they reissue records on Record Store Day on super vinyl, and if I've got it already, it's like, well, I kind of got the original. So speaking as one collector, they've not really kind of floated my boat. Plus, I haven't seen them for sale anywhere physically. I've never walked past an aisle and had that impulse to kind of go, I quite like that actually. Yeah, I can find a home for it. So I don't know. Certainly, you hear lots of people going nuts for them. I quite like the Tarkin, but if anything, that made me want to go off and collect all the different language variants of that board game. So I don't know if they're a good example to ask, really.
When it comes to the vintage collection, then, have you been able to see what's already been announced for 2020? Is there much coming?
There's 3 waves that have been announced. So there's 4 figures in a wave. The first wave is out in April, and there's the Mandalorian figure. I've pre-ordered that. a Cara Dune, a Remnant Stormtrooper, which is like the dirty Stormtroopers that are with the client on, I don't know the name of the planet. What's the planet they're on? Do you know that? And the fourth figure is a Clone Trooper in that wave. They're the ones that the next wave that's out in April. And just on the Clone Trooper, I was talking to Stuart about this earlier on. I've got a book, the Ultimate Action Figure Collection. So this book came out October 2012. I was just going to see if anyone could guess how many clone figures are in this book. So every single clone figure that was released from 2002 through to 2012. How many does everyone think there are? Take a guess. Start with Stuart. How many do you think there are?
There's got to be 50. I've got that book and pages and pages of Clone Troopers.
And we'll go with, this is all Clone Troopers, not any particular phase or stuff. So anything with Clone Trooper in its title. So how many do you reckon?
I'm going to go even higher, 70.
Craig, how many do you reckon?
A lot in it. I'll go split the difference, say 60.
Okay. So you're all close in terms of number of pages. So there's actually 48. This book's 350 pages long, and it's 48 pages of Clone Troopers. And in total, there were 308 Clone Troopers released.
What?
All 308.
And I'll tell you what, there's more now, because I know for a fact there was a couple in the Saga Legends line which isn't in that book, and anything else that's been covered since. The vintage collection have got to have had some since then. So
some of these vintage collection figures aren't they? They're actually re-releases of ones that have already been released and are. Well, I don't know how hard some of these are to get, but if the Clone Troopers particularly hard, I can't imagine it is if there's 308 different ones already out there on different card backs. But they've released the Clone Trooper, which I'm guessing is a re-release. The wave after that, there's a Lando General, which I think is a re-release, C-3PO, and Han and Luke Besbin. So that's the next wave that comes out, I think, in June. And the last wave that's been announced for September, October time is an Anakin Skywalker Clone Wars, an Obi-Wan Clone Wars, which I think is a re-release, and a Wicket and a Darth Maul. So it's all over the place in terms of timeline and the characters released.
How many figures was that though? 12, 13?
So 3 lots. Yeah, so there's 12 in total released between now and September.
That's not a lot, considering that is, I know their 6-inch line is obviously something that they really focus on, but because they were saying that of that 30 that was released last year, it's single figures for actual new sculpts. They're all repaints or maybe rejigged with different accessories or maybe a head swap and stuff. There's not a lot of new stuff, is there?
No. I mean, if you look through, I think it was on Jedi Business or one of the websites, they've got all the vintage collections that actually carried on when the vintage collection ended in, I think it was 2013, and the Black Series started. When they restarted the vintage collection, they carried on the numbering, and then some of these are re-releases of the old numbers from the first round of vintage collection. I think there's so far. They've not included any of these ones I've mentioned. There's around 8 that are re-releases.
Are they the same sculpts, Dan, or are they new sculpts for the same characters?
I know that the Gamorrean Guard was one that was highly thought of, and I think that's exactly the same as it was previously. I know with some of the Black Series they're re-releasing them with new head sculpt technology, but I'm not sure for the vintage collection.
Forgetting the retro line more, but the vintage collection, it seems to me that they chuck out. We keep getting new Rays and new Clone Troopers, like Dan's just said, or new Kylo Rens. We're not seeing those background characters, which was exciting, even during like the Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith, or those kind of lines around that period. We were seeing background characters from like the Cantina still popping out. Are we never going to see those figures? Is that now done?
I think a lot of this is marketing and sales, and I think they must look at sales figures and think, let's just do the main characters because that's what everybody wants. I've got a feeling that a lot of these background characters, like R5, I know that was a Target exclusive, wasn't it, on the vintage collection, but that seems to be quite a popular figure. Did they ever do a power droid?
Not that I'm aware of.
See, a lot of those sorts of figures, why didn't they redo the first wave, or why didn't they recreate the vintage collection with the figures that had gone previously with Kenner? Why didn't they just match those with new backing cards and new sculpts for the figures? That would have gone down incredibly well, I would imagine, instead of, like Dan says, just troopers all the time, because it's cheap and easy to do. Doesn't take a great deal of imagination or money cost to keep putting those things out, and collectors will hoover it up.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
Topic 2 kind of ties into the first one, with the 5 points of articulation being cancelled. Obviously, you would think of those ranges. You'd buy them for your children to open and play with. Now, they have been replaced with what they've called the 5-inch range. Now, I know these things have got a proper name, and I haven't got them on my screen at the moment. Anyone know?
Adventures, is it?
Galaxy Adventures is spot on. Yes, you're right. Craig, you're talking. Well, what is your thoughts on these when you look at them?
If I've got this right, so Lucasfilm created these little animated shorts that were kind of slightly anime style, and I with the aim of introducing sort of original trilogy characters and scenarios to a younger generation. That's my understanding, and that funny little line we got of action figures in those little plastic tubes were kind of branded Galaxy of Adventures and had that anime style artwork, but the figures inside were realistic.
Yeah.
And I think what they've done with this 5-inch range is they've taken that anime style and they've actually made the figures now to match that style. That's my understanding of this little situation.
I think personally the only sort of demographic that I guess they were still buying action figures and still play with action figures are younger children nowadays, not rather than when we were originally buying figures in my case, into my teens. But like Craig says, these are aimed very specifically at a younger audience, and I think that younger audience is where the market for action figures really sort of is a bit of a mainstay. So I really like them. I think they look great, and I can see why they've done it. I totally understand why they've done it.
I just think, we've had a 3 3/4 inch line for every movie since 1978, and I think it's a bit of a poor show really. They've even done a wave of figures. So even my boy, he's got drawers full of action figures. He's probably got over 100 from all eras, from the prequels, the original trilogy. He's got vintage and he's got modern, and he's got tons of sequel trilogy stuff as well. And it's just a shame that for Christmas Santa couldn't bring him some Rise of Skywalker figures because there weren't any. And if he wants an Emperor Palpatine, if they bring out a zombie Palpatine, I'm probably going to have to go and spend 15-20 quid on either a Black Series or a Vintage Collection one for him, which really isn't designed for him. That scale, it doesn't fit with any of his toys. He can't put them in his vehicles. It just seems a really strange move to do at that point.
I went and bought one. So I went into a supermarket. There is one toy range around my way which I can get hold of nearly any of them, and I went with the Vader. Had a very kind of a Macquarie kind of mask, and I thought I would try it with my 2 children. Like I said, got one that's 8, one that's 2. My boy, nothing, no interest. Little girl loved it. She loves anything, and he's mixed in now. He's hanging out with a Playmobil horse and some sort of Woody Weeble. But I was actually quite impressed with the amount of joints on them. It's got articulation all over the place. The figure, you could put in any kind of mould. Its waist, it's got ball jointed hips, its knees, the ankles move, the arms move at the elbows, the forearm, the neck, the shoulders, everything. So you can actually get some quite good, poses and moves if you have more than one. And I will say that the 3-pack with the droids is lovely.
How much they cost?
So they retail normally they're 10 quid at the moment. Yeah. They're 7 quid in one of the supermarkets where I got it from. The 3-pack with the 3 droids, which is BB-8, R2 and D-O, I think that's 15 quid. But
when you look at how much bigger they are than a standard 3 3/4 inch, that's the same price as a 3 3/4 inch. That's the problem. They're using more plastic to make these, putting all the extra articulation in, but they can't do a cheap 3 3/4 inch figure anymore. They're all £10 when they hit the shelves. It's just crazy. People would buy them. I think they look at it. It's this tiny little thing. Do I want to spend £10 on this, or do I want to go and buy something a bit bigger? Feel like you get a bit more value for money. I think that their marketing's been a bit crap lately.
They remind me a bit of I don't know whether any of you, my lad, had them when he was younger, but they did like a play school did a big figure, like a big chunky figure, which was probably about 8 inches, and that actually he had an X-wing with that. It was a huge, great thing. They remind me of that kind of build. They're made to be proper battered. They would take some force play on them. And as far as I'm aware, they are meant to be having some vehicles. Figures come in with packed in vehicles. I don't know when or what's been revealed, or whether, I'm sure the toy shows this year will give us an insight to that. But if the line's successful, I think they are going down.
They are going to be some big vehicles.
But you've only got to look at the 6-inch line, haven't you? That the TIE Fighter that came out for the Black Series was a beast, wasn't it?
That was mad.
Now, I want to talk about the packaging, and this is where we're lucky to have Craig and Mark on with your background, because what do you think about the packaging? I suppose the demographic it's aimed at kind of suits the target market.
They remind me a little bit of the 2003 Clone Wars, the Tartar, what's he called? Can never say his name, but the original animated one,
Tartakovsky, yes, yeah.
They've got that kind of feel to them, which I always quite liked. I think what's happened since then is that every other brand has kind of latched onto that slightly anime, kind of bright, bold, graphic kind of style, and it's in danger of getting a bit lost. So if a good example would be to look at like the comics aisle in the supermarket and how it all looks the same. I think this packaging's kind of getting a little bit mushed into that, compared to something like the classic racetrack and all the things we know and love. I think it is appealing to children, but I think in terms of standout, I'd question how much it would have, really. Don't know what you think, Mark.
I think I would agree with you, mate, wholeheartedly. I think the problem nowadays is somebody like Disney. They have what they call Bible style guides, which every manufacturer has to adhere to down to the nearest millimeter. You make a mistake on creating a design that isn't in sort of pace with what they are producing or what they want you to produce, they won't let you go ahead with it. And I think any imagination, any creative flair, any kind of anything outside of the box is just, you can just see the marketing men pulling the rug from underneath the feet. And it's designed by a committee. That's exactly what it is. It's designed by a committee. And I think it's just so lackluster. So much could be done with that, using imagery from the films. The illustration's nice. Don't get me wrong. I really love the illustration. Everything kind of blends together on the racks. Whereas toys back in the day, you knew exactly what you were looking at, what range you were after, because it had a distinct look. It's just it lacks for me. It really does.
Do you not think it was like that in the prequel trilogy, though? Even I remember seeing that Vader image from Revenge of the Sith, and it always seemed to be the same images across everything.
Oh, absolutely. The prequel stuff, the Power of the Force 2 line was just an abomination. That sort of glittery, chromy Star Wars logo, which had been messed to bits with, it looked awful. And then you got all the cards were either red or they were green or they were yellow or whatever, and they just looked crap. And I think that's where the whole thing just fell apart. Whereas before we had the marketing men in charge, really, before that all sort of took a hold, each manufacturer had a design department, or they used a design agency and say, right, okay, we need a box for this. What do you think? And they would then submit that to Lucasfilm, who had no idea what they were doing, really. And they would either say yes or no. And this is why you got so many different variations from each manufacturer at the time. The Helixes, Kenner, Palitoy, all started to look very different. And I don't know, maybe I'm looking at things through rose-tinted spectacles, probably. Not the first time I've been accused of that, but I just think stuff these days is just so clinical. It just lacks something for me.
Even from a sort of, a design point of view. So, I'm not familiar with these figures. What Stuart's just said about them being roughy-tufty and super jointed and, something that'll take some hammer, just doesn't come across on that packaging with a copied and paste picture of Chewbacca.
Absolutely.
Delightful as it is, you really want to make that point. If you're a parent buying for your kids, you want to sort of see some of those poses and some of that kind of play value. It's just not there. It doesn't come across.
What is Chewbacca doing on that box? I'm looking at the Chewbacca at the moment, and what is Chewie doing? I don't even understand what he's doing on the illustration on the box. It doesn't make any sense. It just lacks sort of dynamics.
I think he's jumping out of a cupboard scaring Han Solo.
Yeah, I think he is.
I certainly don't think they're for the collector's market. I'll be very surprised if collectors are picking it up and putting a run of them together.
I bet they look really good out of the box, posed all together. I can see them looking pretty cool out of the box.
I think you're tempted, aren't you, Mark?
I'm more than tempted. I'm online as we speak, ordering a couple from Amazon.
In Star Wars Galaxy of Adventures, Kylo Ren and Rey battle it out, while BB-8, D-O, R2-D2, and C-3PO hold it together. Mostly. And you can always count on Chewie's Wookiee Slam. Star Wars Galaxy of Adventures, each sold separately.
Let's go on to topic 3, which I listen to podcasts, and they're often based in the States or Canada and things, and like they do all these like, oh, I went on a toy run at the weekend and I went to this place, and picked up this and this. And then I think to myself, I go out, you know, I might pop in a shop sometimes, and there's never anything. I even pop in my local Smiths, and the only thing I ever find in there is builder blades. There is nothing in there. I kind of listed UK places to buy. We'll let you all go through these. Now, Dan, I'll let you take the supermarkets, because I do see the odd thing in Asda or Tesco's or Sainsbury's. Not a lot, but there is a few bits. Now Tesco's down my way are stocked with the 5-inch line, but nothing else. Now, you work for Tesco's. What kind of stock do they order?
There's someone somewhere making that decision. I don't know who it is or how they make those decisions, but certainly, you know, all of the supermarkets I visit, and not only the supermarkets, I think Smith's as well, which is now, I think that's the big toy shop, isn't it now? Toys R Us has gone. The one round by me is a big one in Watford, and it is minimal in there in terms of Star Wars. Like, you know, I was going in there a couple of times on the way home from work, a few, to see what they had when just after Falls Friday, and they had nothing. I think they've got some carbonised jet troopers exclusive to them, and they're all still sat there. It's very slim pickings. If you're serious about collecting modern, you know, you're a Black Series collector or even vintage series, you've got to go online. You can't rely on the shops, toy shops or supermarkets, anything like that. So that the shops you listed, the in-demand toys, the Star Act figures, I use Comics and Cocktails. Sign up to them, follow them on Facebook. They'll tell you as soon as they put the stuff up for pre-order, and as long as you're there on the spot, and that's where I get most of my stuff from online. You just can't rely on the shops anymore.
I must admit, actually, the Smiths near me, we talk about action figures being dead, but my Smiths, when it comes to wrestling figures, the old WWE, nearly a whole aisle is full of wrestling figures. So there must still be a market, that type of toy, an action figure, because
you're right.
there is an awful lot of them in there. Craig, you've been to the Entertainer today, I guess, by those photos. It looked pretty well stocked where you were.
There was lots there, but it was all reduced. The Rogue One figures, £2. Episode 8 figures, £3.33. I think the vintage collections were half price. I think they were like 7 something. But loads of it. And it's been there for a long time.
But my nearest Entertainer is about a 40-minute drive to me. Whenever I go in there, it's the same. When it comes to Black Series, it tends to be that Mimban trooper thing, and there's a array.
For me, I think a lot of this goes in hand with the general state of the high street as a whole anyway. Even bigger companies, I mean, you've only got to look at Toys R Us going belly up. You know, the high street is a ghost town. Nobody goes to the high street and shops anymore in the same way. And these kinds of things it's online fodder. Why go into town to buy a toy when you can just order it online? And I think that's why, unless you find the stuff in places like Home Bargains and Poundland, which seem to get everybody's blood pumping on Facebook when they see vintage collection for, I don't know, £3 or £4 in Poundland. Other than that, where else is there? There's nowhere left to go.
I know what you mean, mate, but I think for kids it is still an experience. I mean, this Saturday, I got home tonight and my daughter said, guess where we're going on Saturday, Daddy? I said, where are we going? We're going into town. Why are we going into town on Saturday, Poppy? I'm going to buy a horse. And she's 8, and she's really excited about going into the local, what's the toy chain? Is it Toy Master? I think it is still Toy Master or something like that. Is it? Oh, it's kids stuff, which is part, I think, of the Toy Master chain. And she wants to buy a Schleich, you know, those really nice farm animals and all the rest of it. She wants to buy one of those. But for her, it is about the experience of standing in front of that 6-foot racking that she can't even see the top shelf of, and just going through all the animals and looking at them and touching them. It is still very much a physical thing for her. So I think for kids, you can buy stuff online, and frankly, as Dan said, the only way you're going to get the modern line is by buying it online. You can't rely on the shops. But for kids, I think there's still that magic there of going into toy shops.
Do you think some of the magic's gone because we're probably better off than what our parents were? You know, I used to get toys on my birthdays and Christmases, but I buy my children stuff willy-nilly without thinking whether they really appreciate the true value of a toy as well. I do. My son would take things for granted, which is probably my doing.
I would agree with you, mate. Totally. It seems like every weekend when my kids go shopping with my wife, they come back with stuff that normally you would get bought for you on your birthday or whatever. It's mad, really. Yeah, I think it must be just a generational thing. I think kids today don't quite respect having things bought for them the same way that we did.
And every outlet, every sort of burger chain, you can walk away with a toy. Every comic you buy has got a cover mount. Whereas, I remember when you got something on the front of the Beano, it was big news. But it's just a constant stream of stuff, whether it's a sticker slapped kind of generic thing on a magazine or, some of the McDonald's stuff. It's cheaper plastic, but some of it's quite good, and it just amounts to so much clutter in a child's life. I've sort of got 3, so I can speak with some validity on that. They're just bombarded.
It's very true, and it's exactly what you've said, Mark. The other day I said to my wife, I said it's not a birthday. She's just had Christmas. In actual fact, she's not had a birthday. Why is she getting this? And it is every time you walk into a supermarket, the kid walks out with something. It's our fault, isn't it? And maybe it's because when we were kids, as you say, it was a birthday, it was a Christmas, it was Granny and Grandpa coming to visit or whatever, and it was such a big event. I don't know if that was to do with wealth, though. I mean, these baby boomers are all loaded, aren't they? Or whether it was just the mindset, this consumer society, which, as Craig rightly says, every time you walk into McDonald's, you're walking out with something in your hand. Not that I eat Happy Meals, honestly, unless it's TY or something like that, then I have to have one. But it's everything. You're bombarded with stuff everywhere.
Things are so fast moving these days. 1 minute they're into one thing, the next minute they're into another, and before you know it, you've spent 60 quid on little tiny, what was it my son was into not long ago? Trash packs. These little tiny rubber things, and he went mental for them, and that's all we had for about 6 months. And then as soon as he was into them, it felt like he'd forgotten about them and they were in a box, and that was it, forgotten about. So
some of those blind bags are incredible, aren't they? You go into the supermarket and you can't see what you're buying. They were all right when they were a couple of quid, but my niece, she collects these. I can't think what the toy range is called. Si will probably be able to help me more here because we're having a girl. They were like an egg, but you didn't know what you were getting, and they were like 30 quid.
Yeah, lol surprise.
Yeah, sound like lols. Yeah.
How can you to spend £30 on something you don't know what you're getting, or you could buy a second one and get exactly the same as what you've already got? It's just mind blowing to me that you would even contemplate picking it up and buying it.
Some nutter out there's buying them.
Like you say, it doesn't look like it's going to get any better hit in this country with the high street shops. It does seem to be the internet. Forbidden Planet obviously always has quite good stock, but they're very rare. Where are they? London, Newcastle?
One in Hanley and Stoke-on-Trent, which is absolutely full to the gunnels with Funko Pops.
So kids just got into those as well. There's one in Southampton, the Forbidden Planet. There's quite a few. They bought a lot of the small independent comic shops and just sort of expanded that way.
Well, there's none near me. The same as everything else. And the Disney store. Who frequents the Disney store regularly? Because, again, I've got to travel near enough to London to get to a Disney store.
There's one in Watford. I pop in there whenever I'm in Watford.
And do they stock a lot?
No, not really. I mean, when Force Awakens out, even Last Jedi, they had all the elite figures and various other bits and pieces. These little, they're more little models on the stands. You get them in sets, things like that. But it all seems to have dried up. They've got about a dozen Black Series Kylo Rens. They've been in there for years on and off. The Vader and a Yoda that you press their chest and they talk and say things, and a Stormtrooper, and there's some hoodies and some t-shirts and things like that, but they've really not done a lot for Rise of Skywalker.
No, nor Solo, really. I got into the Disney Elite figures for Force Awakens. So I thought, this is going to be my thing. I liked them. They were kind of tin soldier kind of vibe to them, and I collected all the Force Awakens ones, and then I got the Last Jedi ones and the Rogue ones, and then nothing for Solo. And then you had these random, like, one day where an Anakin was available and you could never find it, and it was 60 quid on eBay, and some bizarre kind of little promotions they did means no one's got a full set of Disney Elite figures, and they had multi-packs available at the Disney conferences and things.
The exclusives annoy me, don't they? You fly them over here and whatnot, or you get hold of them, and then some exclusives end up being in the older entertainer, and you're like, well, it is strange.
Anakin Skywalker, meet Obi-Wan Kenobi.
The final two topics are very similar to each other. We're starting off with looking at The Mandalorian. Now, The Mandalorian has been a huge success. I'm assuming we've all watched it I absolutely loved it. Watched them all several times. Really, really enjoyable. So the first part of this, we're going to look at 5 things that have been already released. A bit of a review on them. It's mainly 6-inch Black Series we're looking at to start with. So, Mark, I'm coming to you first. Of course, the Mandalorian, the first edition figure that came out for the Black Series. What do you think?
Love it. Love the series. Like the figure. I think I mentioned to somebody today that I can see me actually buying some of this Mandalorian stuff, not because of an investment or because I think it's going to be, sought after, purely because I think it looks great. I really like it. Good figure, nicely moulded, as you would expect from Black Series. Not a great deal of accessories to go with it, but, it's a good figure. Really, really cool. Packaging's a bit crap.
The figure that came out on like 3 separate packaging, like a gold, a white.
Yes, I've got 2 of them. I've got the carbonised, it's kind of like in a bronze box, and there's a white edition box that was like the first edition release, and then there's the standard black box. So the white edition, I was just looking on eBay before we started. The last white Mando that sold on eBay went for £107.
I take it they're not being released again. It's not something that's going to be.
I think the black box ones are coming out again. Harrison wanted one for Christmas after he watched it, and he's like, "Oh, can I get a Mando figure?" And I'm like, because I've got the 2 in my office, and he wanted to open one of them. I was like, "No, not those ones, but we'll get you another one." So I've got one on pre-order for him. But even the black boxes are going for about 40-50 quid. They were going for 70 at Christmas, and the carbonised ones are going for around 60-70. So I think they'll re-release the black box ones, but yeah, the special ones they released for Force Friday. I think that's that with them.
Have you taken them out the box?
Don't be silly,
loser. Mark, are you going to take them out the box? Because I think they'd look amazing, all the 6-inch line Mandalorian.
Absolutely, I bloody hate the boxes. I think the boxes I really
make a lovely scene.
I bought some cases of Christian for mine. I've got mine in acrylic. It's getting out of hand, lads.
I have never met a Mandalorian.
Sticking on the 6-inch line then, Cara Dune, great character.
I would just like to say I'm in love with Cara Dune. She's just great. I mean, yeah.
I wonder where you're going to go with that, because some of your comments offline have been absolutely unacceptable.
Sorry, I just feel I need to declare my love for her. She's magnificent. Anyway, Cara Dune, what a cracking action figure. I really love this. I don't know what line they started it with, but the laser scan face technology thing, where you just get a miniature version of the person, and the face is absolutely spot on. The details brilliant. The figure is well proportioned, shall we say. It matches her stocky build in the series. Accessory wise, yeah, sort of like the heavy blaster that she's got, a little pistol and a knife that you can stick in a boot. I was quite surprised. Forget 5 points of articulation. Guess how many points of articulation these figures have got? It's nuts. Absolutely insane. Guess, Stu.
42.
Not bad. 38. 38 separate points of articulation. Absolutely nuts. So you can pose them any way you like. Yeah, good paint jobs and paint apps as well. Nice little bit of weathering and wear and what have you on them. Even got a tiny little tattoo on her left cheek, the Rebel Alliance or whatever it was, Jump Trooper tattoo. So they've done well with it. I think it's a really, really nice range of figures overall, and I will be picking up a Cara Dune.
Do you like the packaging? Mark's been very down on packaging tonight.
He has, hasn't he? He has. It's because he's such a Return of the Jedi fan. He loves the proportions on that packaging.
Don't get me started on that, mate. Don't get me started on that.
I think the boxes are all right. I don't think they're anything special. I do like the sort of like almost etching artwork, haven't they? It's almost like it's like you used to do at school, loads of colours behind it and then cover it over in black crayon and then scratch out the black. It's quite nice like that. And the artwork on the back, they stand up nicely.
Yeah, do you remember that like phase I went for about 18 months ago where I decided to collect Black Series 6-inch and
yeah, you did really... that for, was that 3 weeks or 4? And how many did you buy?
I bought about 60, 70 of the things and they just dominated my office, so I had to get rid of them. Which I think you bought some actually.
I did, yeah. Great line of figures.
Your name will be legendary.
6-inch still on that line. Dan, IG-11, what a great character.
Great character. He's a really good figure. The paint apps, they look great on it. I've joined a few of the Black Series groups, and I've got quite a few people who've got a downer on the figure because they've reused the IG-88 sculpt and give it a new paint app. You know, I think the IG droids are all the same. So whether it's 11, 88, 99, I think they're all going to be the same. But yeah, it's a really good figure. It's quite hard to get. They've sold out quite quick. I think a lot of these, the initial release of some of these sold out really quick once the series came out. But I think most of them are going to get a kind of a second bite of the cherry in March. They're all going to get re-released, but yeah, it's a great figure.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Craig, then. So the 6-inch did do a deluxe figure, the heavy infantry Mandalorian. Beautiful.
Yes, he is heavy. It's made of a lot of plastic, so he falls into that category like Grievous or Emperor with the throne, where it's a deluxe one because it's just big. It's just big and bulky, and he's great. You know, he's got his Baze Malbus style repeater gun, and I think that scene where all those Mandos come out and they start kicking ass was just phenomenal. I think we've all waited several decades to see that, and I think in universe he's supposed to be Paz Vizsla, isn't he? He's supposed to be voiced by Jon Favreau and quite a significant bit part player, really, but he's not billed as that on this figure. He's just a sort of generic heavy infantry guy. I'm not sure what the thinking was with that, but I mean, it's worthy of the Black Series title. I mean, it looks great. Paint app's great. His gun does stuff. You can flip it to the back. And
is he easy to get hold of?
I don't know.
I'm not aware of that. And what about pricing of a deluxe figure? Does anyone know what the difference between a standard and a deluxe one is?
Yeah, I think if you get them at retail, I think the Black Series is about 20 quid. The deluxe ones are around 27, 28 quid if you get them at the retail. But quite often the deluxe ones are a little bit inflated. So I think it was In Demand Toys have they've managed to get hold of another 98, and they've had to put them up for 41 quid each because that's what they bought them off the wholesaler at. They do vary.
It is a shame that your people suffered.
The final one I want to look at that's already been released is actually not a Black Series figure. It's a bit of Lego, and that's the old ATST Raider vehicle, which was another great episode of one of the early episodes, wasn't it? But Si, I know you love your Lego. Where does this sit when it comes to Lego sets?
I think this is something like I'm going to say the 10th or 11th iteration of the ATST that Lego have produced. Admittedly, yeah, it is a legitimate release because it's for a new TV show and it's in new markings and all the rest of it, but it just gets a little bit tired. I can't get excited about this Lego set at all.
Not at all. What about the little figures? What little figures are we getting with this? Because everyone loves a Lego figure.
So there's a Mando figure, there's a Cara Dune figure, and there's 2 Clatoonian Commandos, I think, that it comes with.
That's got to be worth a 50 quid.
My 8-year-old loved it. I watched him build it Christmas Day. He put it together in no time. He thought it's great. On display in his bedroom now.
Yeah. All Lego's great to build. I resent paying the price that Lego charge nowadays. It is crazy. They've lost the plot.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you all now who loses the plot. I had to go and do a pickup in Kent for Si once. And it was about, I don't know how many there were, 60, 70?
I'd say about 60, mate. Yeah, something like that.
Empty Lego boxes, and they were massive. We're talking about massive sets.
Death Star.
Yeah, they took up my garage quite badly, and they filled the back of my van up.
There was quite a lot there, Stuart. I've done quite well on those, actually. Thanks very
much. Have you still got some?
I've still got about 40 or 50, yeah.
That's got to be 3-4 years ago I picked them up.
Oh, dear. Never mind.
Skywalker.
Okay, so let's move on to Mandalorian in 2020. Now, there's all sorts coming out. I'm sure the Mandalorian, with the success of it, they'll be stupid not to be churning stuff out. I think you're going to see all sorts of Baby Yoda stuff. So this time I've chosen 5 things that I quite like the looks of, or I thought that might sell well. And the first one goes to Hot Toys. Now, I love Hot Toys. To collect them, you've got to have pretty deep pockets, but I know Craig likes a Hot Toys. The Mandalorian figure, Craig, that's coming out. What do you think of that?
I think it's awesome. It's great, and I think, you know, even at that scale, some of the human figures, the faces, it can be a little off. But when you've got a helmeted character like Mandalorian, you kind of, you know, it's a winner. It looks stunning. Comes with all the bits, you know, the different hands, guns, the little tracker, and interestingly, and this is something that's kind of I amused me as I was watching the show, just how quickly it moves. It's not a movie where you've got one character in one costume that's going to, you know, define that character. You know, within the space of a couple of episodes, you've got a new shoulder. And I thought of all the people that have bought the figure, they're going to need the other shoulder variant now. And then obviously by the end of the season, can we talk spoilers? He has a slight change in outfits. So, and then of course you've got the helmet off version. You know, at what point do you kind of go all in for the Hot Toys toy? Because this is obviously, you know, from the first few episodes. But yeah, I mean, it's a stunning piece of work.
They're going to have to do a deluxe with the Baby Yoda with him, aren't they?
Yeah, they're going to have to show his face, I think, as well. I think people are going to want that.
Yeah. I was reading that this might not actually be available until early 2021. late in the year, or which I was quite surprised at. But the prototype and the pictures they've used, I think it looks amazing. I think just the detail on the clothing and stuff, just stunning.
I mean, getting scaled fabric is hard. I mean, you look at the kind of that sort of scarfy thing he wears around his neck, and certainly on the photos and the cloak, it works, you know.
It's my dressing gown. I swear they've stolen my dressing gown.
A very fine knit, soft dressing gown.
Yeah, the top of his helmet's a bit like the top of your head.
I'm ignoring you. You will go away.
Mark. Now, Baby Yoda has certainly been the most popular thing this year, I would say. When 2019 from Star Wars, it was. I've never seen so much love for a Star Wars character since Jar Jar Binks. But Hasbro are going to release a talking plush Baby Yoda. You've got to be picking one of these up.
Absolutely. I'll probably have to pick up several. One for my son, one for my daughter, one for the missus, one for me. I've got to say, before I just talk about this product, I think Disney played an absolute blinder with this character. Because if you think about it, in this day and age of spoilers and the internet and nothing lasting 5 seconds in terms of secrecy, that character completely blindsided everybody. As soon as people saw it, it was a revelation. And to have kept that secret took some doing. The compromise for that, obviously, is they couldn't have anybody anywhere remotely near it that wasn't involved in the production. So keeping it secret was going to be a real headache if they wanted product ready for when the show hit. So that's why everybody's sort of scrabbling around now to get Baby Yoda products out. But, I think it's a price worth paying because, again, I think the character was so cool. I think it was worth doing. So back to the product. It's about 7.5 inches tall. Makes some random generic sort of gurgly noises. Comes with a little frog and a little bowl. It looks cute. They'll sell an absolute shed load of these things. They will not be able to keep up with demand, I'm quite sure. It looks great. It's a really good product.
I think the sounds have actually been released, so I will insert them here so we can all enjoy them. I think this has got a set date of May, and definitely be adding one to my children's bedroom and maybe my own.
The other interesting thing on those is there's another, I think there's 2 large scale ones. There's a Disney store kind of stuffed toy one that doesn't interact at all. But Mattel are also releasing their version as well. So Mattel are getting in on the act now as well. And I wonder how Hasbro feel about that.
And Si, we're staying on the baby Yoda, or I think it's been more commonly known as the child, hasn't it? The Black Series are also releasing one of these figures.
Yeah, I can't wait to see this because I love it. The Black Series 6-inch series releases a 1.2-inch figure. It's tiny. It's going to be lost in that black
It'll be like
box.
the Porgs, won't it? The Porgs were in a very small box.
Oh, you reckon they'll scale the box down for it?
Yeah, they'll be like I should think it'll be like because I think the retail price for this, I think you can pre-order it for like 10, 11 quid, can't you?
It's going to be so cool. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. It's a shame it doesn't come with his little floating pod, which I can totally see them doing a drone of. Baby Yoda in his little floating bassinet.
That's exactly the sort of thing you will buy.
That is entirely the sort of thing I'll buy. Yeah, it's great. It's going to be a nice enough little figure. I can't imagine they're going to make many points of articulation with it. I do want his ears to go up and down, though. If they don't, I'm going to be upset. Comes with a frog, again, a desert frog or a dune frog or whatever it's called, a earthenware bowl, and rather entertainingly, a tiny little silver ball, which, without giving spoilers away, is a control knob of something.
Isn't that the cutest thing?
It is so damn cute. They really have done well here, and they risk bringing in an entire generation of little ones. You're telling me there's not going to be a Baby Yoda spin-off cartoon? There's got to be somewhere in there. There's got to be marketing goals for Disney to bring in the sort of kids generation.
Do you think they'll be able to kill it off?
Don't you dare say You disgusting creature. You are not killing off the child.
Oh, yeah. It says 7 points of articulation here. Head, shoulders, hands and feet.
No ears.
No.
Some of the ears don't articulate.
No, they might be bendy.
They better be. I'm bending those ears.
Now, Dan, something that I say I don't have any. I have a few He-Man ones, but Funko Pops.
Yeah.
Mandalorian, 14 coming out in 2020.
Do you want to go through it? Do you want to go through each one? Should we do a quick rundown of each
Yeah.
one?
Let's see what they've got because the Funko Pop collectors, there is a lot of them. I know people that have got bookshelves full of them, so it is a popular area of collecting.
So regards to Mando, they've already released 4. So there was a Mando, Cara Dune, Quill, and an IG-88. They came out on False Friday. There's a Baby Yoda one that's already, I think that's been up from pre-order since November. But there's another load coming out. So they've got a Grief Karga, who's the guy who played Apollo Creed. There is a heavy inventory one. There is a Off-World Jawa, an Incinerator Trooper. So that Stormtrooper that came in at the end of I think it was the second to last, or the last episode with the flamethrower. That Stormtrooper. Q90, which was the droid in the Prison Break episode. It was about to take out Baby Yoda, and Mando got to him first. There's a covert Mandalorian. I'm not quite sure what character that is. He's got a green helmet. I'm not quite sure that character. There's another Mandalorian where he's kind of standing in a pose with his gun held in the air. There's the armourer. There's a Werner Herzog figure, the client. There is a Mandalorian on a blurg. That one costs a little bit more. That one's $33, so it's kind of a deluxe Funko. There's a Death Watch Mandalorian. So that's in the armor style when in the flashbacks where the Mandalorian's a child and he gets rescued by the Mandalorian in the Death Watch armor. That's that character. A Mandalorian with flame. So he's got his flamethrower with a flame coming out of his wrist. A Trandoshan Fug. And finally, a Mandalorian with Beskar armor, which is a Amazon exclusive. So that's all 15 or 14. Sorry,
quite the range, isn't it?
It's amazing how quickly they knock them out compared to how long it takes Hasbro to turn stuff around. They must just have these all just set up, and it's pretty standard format, isn't it? The bodies themselves, and create a different head and stick it on, and away it goes. But they can churn them out. That's for sure.
Is anyone a Funko fan here?
Can't say that I am.
No.
No.
I bet you've got some though, Si.
You know I've got some, mate, because my bloody mate keeps on buying me them for Christmas. They're all bloody from the Marvel universe. I'm like, yay, 2 more Funko Pops for the loft.
I would be a fan if there wasn't so many of them.
Yeah.
They seem to be everywhere. I think they're cool little things, but it just seems to me like they make a Funko for absolutely anything.
It's quite incredible how many different licenses they've got, isn't it? Because they literally cover everything.
I saw it in the local Forbidden Planet. They're bringing out June, the 1984 film, June. They're bringing out Funko Pops for that. Now, who is around? There's a fan of that film that wants a Funko of Sting. It just beggars belief.
There's a barber's I go to in Ruislip, and they've got it's quite a trendy hipster barbers, and they've got shelves up on the wall above the mirrors where you get your hair cut, and they've got Funkos out of the box, and they actually look quite good out of their boxes. Not Star Wars ones, all different ranges, but they do look quite cool, some of them. But yeah, not for me as a collector.
You're going to a trendy barber's. Why don't you have your hair cut there?
I look Hastings Street.
Mark, so the Hot Toys IG-11, another nice piece.
Now, if I was going to start collecting modern stuff and I was going to go heavy on it, I would probably go down the Hot Toys 6-scale route because it seems like every figure they release is just looks mint, and this IG-11 is no exception. What I love about this character what I love how they've made this character. They've taken what was essentially the most static prop in other terms, the most static looking character, which was in the background in The Empire Strikes Back, where only the head moved, and they've turned it into the most agile. Just the way it moves, the way it interacts, it's fantastic. Any scene with IG-11 in is fantastic in The Mandalorian. He is absolutely brilliant, and I think this one is going to go down a storm. Stands about just under 15 inches tall, so it's more or less the same sort of size as the old vintage one, and comes with a couple of blasters and the leatherette type bandoliers. It looks fantastic. They've not pulled any punches with this. It looks brilliant.
If I was going to buy one to represent the film, I could even be tempted, but to choose that over the Mando, that's how beautiful I think it is. I think it's an amazing piece. It states on this site around $250, so not too bad. The great things with Hot Toys, if anyone's looking to buy Hot Toys, on the day that Carrie Fisher died, I actually bought my one and only Hot Toys. I ordered a Leia in the white gown, and I clicked on their payment plan, and they don't really charge you anything extra, but you pay over 3 months, so you don't really feel, and then on the third month they send it out. So kind of arrived around my birthday, so it's kind of it's a good way of buying something if you don't want to outlay that kind of money, because when I look at Hot Toys I think to myself, I can get myself a nice vintage mint on card for that, and I think that's what's always swaying. But when you're on a payment plan and you're spending 50-60 quid, you can lose it. It's a good way of buying. But
I always think they look really classy as well when you put them on display.
Yeah.
There's something about, when you see these pictures of people's collections on Facebook, and they've got like 20 or 30 Hot Toys characters on display in really nice glass. They just look so classy. They really do.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, it's look, you're making me want to feel like I need to go and buy one. It's not good. You've got a few Hot Toys, haven't you, Craig?
I have. I've got that Leia, which was just I just fell in love with it. I saw it at one of the celebrations and I just kept walking around, going back to it, taking another photograph of it. Yeah, so I bought that, and her base is part of the flooring, that ubiquitous
of
stuff.
Course, yeah, it matches with your thing.
So she stands next to that in a little custom. I made a little backdrop for it and extended the floor out because I'm nerdy like that. So I have her. She's kind of a one-off, and then I bought the Luke and Rey from the final scene of the of Force Awakens after I'd been running around dressed up as him.
Well, we'll get onto that at some point, no doubt, over the months here. But and just before we close out, we've touched on it earlier, the vintage collection. What do you think of? I saw you put it up earlier. It's actually been today that the images were released. What do you think about the vintage collection 3 that were announced?
It's a lovely range of figures as a whole, the vintage collection. I obviously love the idea of it, and I saw the Imperial Gunner, which isn't in Wave 25, so I do apologise. I'm digressing, and that's an awesome figure too. Out of the new ones, the 3 Mandalorian ones are must-haves, aren't they? That scruffed up Stormtrooper and Cara Dune, of course, has to be done. Has to be bought. And what was the third one? I can't remember now.
Mando.
Was it Mando? Just Mando. So that is the first 3 things. Oh, okay. Fair play. Yeah, great figures. Look forward to the whole range of those. I think I might have to dip into those. However, and I'm going to steal Craig and Mark's thunder here, they've messed the packaging up big style on it. I think the logo looks terrible. Awful. Dreadful. Lost in the middle. It's a little lozenge of nothingness.
They've done it for all of the movies. Rogue One, Last Jedi, Force Awakens. They're all done in that same font, like almost like the Return of the Jedi font on the vintage cards. They just followed that, and they haven't really used any imagination.
Yeah, and it looked dreadful for Rogue One as well, but for Mandalorian it looks even worse because it's longer and thinner, and it's just stupid.
If you could all just come up with one toy you'd love to see from the Mandalorian that you'd be tempted to buy.
I've got one.
Go on, Mark.
And if they don't do this, they should be shot. Anybody that's in charge of Disney's Mandalorian licensing line should be shot if they don't come up with this. And you heard it here first. Helium balloon in the shape of the Yoda pram thing with the little Yoda at the top. And I can see kids up and down Disneyland parks walking around with these helium balloons with the little Yoda character floating around. If they don't do that, they want shooting.
That's a brilliant shout. I love that.
Stu, just remember to hold someone's hand if you get one. Yeah, we don't want to lose you.
I think I'm weighty enough to keep that down, mate.
That's where I've been thinking about Stu. Who reminds me of? He reminds me of that little fella out of Up.
What, the Scout?
That's it. Yeah. Got it, mate.
Spot on.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. Si, what toy do you want to say?
Cara Dune Love Doll.
Oh, brilliant. Craig?
So the show has kind of revealed that you don't need a full carbon freezing chamber to carbon freeze people. So what I'd like to see is like some sort of little frame that comes with a little bit of plastic and some sort of like mini vac forming technology. And you could do it with a little hand pump, perhaps. And what you can do is maybe if it's the 6-inch, you can put any of your 6-inch characters into this little frame. You pump the little thing, the plastic will mold around your figure, and you take your figure out, and you can carbon freeze any of your other toys to kind of have.
A brilliant idea. You boys need to go and join the old toy idea panel. I'm sure they've got one. Brilliant. Dan, you're going to come up with something really boring now, aren't you?
Yeah, for Simon. Simon, you're going to love this. You ready?
Go on, I'm all ears.
So I think they should, the Sandcrawler they did a few years ago, the Lego one. Yeah. I think they should repackage it and call it Off-World Sandcrawler and sell it again.
Perfect.
You'd love that. You'd love it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you could have a load of just blank grey panels from his vessel as well in there. Brilliant idea.
I say, if I was going to buy a Hot Toys, I would love to see a quill on his blurg. I loved his character.
What I love about that character is they clearly knew what they were talking about, because Ugnaughts very sort of mechanical and good engineers and good at repairing things as they were sort of meant to look like on Bespin, and they took that character that, a complete throwaway character, and you reused him and gave him a real personality, and just fantastic. That show succeeds on so many levels, it's unbelievable.
Is it your favourite thing that Disney have done, Mark?
So far, yeah, that and Rogue One, without a shadow of a doubt. I love Rogue One. I love Solo. This Skywalker trilogy was okay, but yeah, Mando, head and shoulders above anything, I think.
And I noticed that the writers were obviously hanging around with you at some point, Si, because they used your eating habits for the Jawas.
You know what? I was going to say the Jawa egg. That, if you want to do a blind bag toy thing, get one of those furry eggs with detachable top, fill it with yellow slime, and you can have a little figure in there. That would be a great blind bag toy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, do you know what? Some great ideas coming out here. I might forward this to the the powers of be.
This is the modern way, faking it every day, and taking it as we come. We're not the only ones. Is that what we used to say? This is the modern way.
Well, what we will say is, if there's any modern topics people want us to discuss on here over the coming shows, drop us an email at generationskywalker@gmail.com, or of course find us on Facebook, Instagram or Twitter just by searching at Generation Skywalker. And make sure you check out our YouTube, because some of our shows will be visualised where they can be. That's just Generation Skywalker as well, so nice and easy to find all our outputs. Boys, lovely first show, just to break us in, get us rolling with the podcasting and whatnot. For this month, it is goodbye from Si.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye from Mark.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye from Craig.
Cheers.
And it's goodbye from Dan.
See you later.
And we'll see you next month.